You know, we all think of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz as this classic kids' story, right? A fun, Technicolor movie fantasy. But what if it's actually something more? What if it's a key that unlocks a really pivotal moment in American history? A time when a brand new, powerful, and totally manufactured dream was being sold to an entire nation of young people. Let's go ahead and pull back that curtain.
This line, right here, it gets to the very heart of our story today. It's about a generation that was reaching for this brilliant, dazzling promise, only to find out the magic wasn't quite what it seemed. This is the story of that dream, the machine that built it, and the reality that was hiding just out of sight.
So where did this whole national fantasy even begin? Well, our story doesn't start on a yellow brick road. It actually starts in a spectacular but temporary city that absolutely blew America's mind.
Get this, a full quarter, 1 out of every 4 people in the entire United States went to the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. I mean, can you even imagine that today? This wasn't just some fair, it was basically America's launch party. It was a giant declaration of its industrial power and its shiny vision for the future.
And right here, you can draw a perfectly straight line from that event straight to Oz. See, the centerpiece of the fair was this thing called the White City, a stunning metropolis made of plaster and light, a total spectacle. And L. Frank Baum was so inspired by it that he went and created his own version, the Emerald City. Both of them were these shimmering, man-made utopias, promising magic, but, not built to last.
So here's the really big takeaway. What the White City, and by extension the Emerald City, stood for was the birth of a totally new American dream. A dream that said, hey, happiness isn't just about hard work and saving your pennies. No, now is about spectacle, about owning cool things, and about getting that hit of pleasure right away. This was the magical future that was being sold to everyone.
But a dream like this doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. Oh no, it was constructed, piece by piece, using powerful new ideas about how the human mind works, and how our deepest desires could be turned into products you could buy. So let's pop the hood on this dream factory and see how it worked.
You know, sometimes history just has these moments where everything lines up perfectly. Check this out. Right at the turn of the century, 3 huge ideas hit the scene all at once. Veblen writes about a new society totally driven by keeping up with the Joneses. Freud basically maps out the hidden world of our unconscious mind. And Baum creates Oz, a ready-made, sellable national fantasy. These weren't separate things. They were all threads of the same big cultural shift.
In 1900, Freud calls the unconscious the truly real psychic, and you better believe that idea didn't stay locked up in a doctor's office. American business saw a massive opportunity. They thought, wait a minute, if we can figure out these hidden urges, we can give them a physical form. We can sell them. They could literally build products out of our dreams.
And the parallel here is just wild when you think about it. Published just months apart, Freud's book is analyzing our private, inner dreams, while Baum's book is creating a public, national one. Both were tapping into the exact same feelings: rising, falling, anxiety. One was analysis, the other was art, but they were both digging in the same hidden territory.
So here's the playbook, right? Step 1, you figure out those deep unconscious desires Freud was talking about. Step 2, you give them a physical shape you can sell, a product, an experience, a magical city. And then, step 3, you plug that right into the keeping up with the Joneses society that Veblen described, where everyone's driven to buy stuff to measure up. It was the perfect engine for creating endless consumer desire.
But just like in Oz, there was always a man behind the curtain. And the dazzling promise of the Emerald City was hiding a much, much harsher reality for a lot of America's young people. So let's pull that curtain back right now.
Okay, so while the White City was gleaming, a whole lot of young people were running away from what our source material calls the Great Gray Prairies. They were escaping farms that had failed, or the strict old-world traditions of their immigrant parents. They were looking for a life that was about more than just surviving. But what they found in the big cities, it was often just a different kind of struggle. Crowded, violent, and numbing.
This quote from the author Stephen Crane, man, it just cuts right to the bone of that disillusionment. The cold, dirty factory life was literally drying up the spontaneous joy of being young. And for a lot of people, like Crane's character Jimmy, it just led to this deep feeling of nihilism, like there's absolutely nothing left to believe in.
And this wasn't just some vague feeling. We've got the numbers to prove it. When Chicago set up the country's very first juvenile court in 1899, a staggering 70% of the kids who ended up there were the children of immigrants. That statistic tells you exactly who was paying the highest price in this new world.
So what does this all boil down to? It means that the glittering Emerald City was a powerful, powerful dream for sure, but it was also a very exclusive one. That promise of immediate happiness was dangled in front of everybody, but in reality, not everyone was getting a ticket inside.
So what happens to a manufactured dream when it smacks right into the wall of brutal, real-world history? Well, the story of Oz gives us a pretty powerful answer.
At the turn of the century, the promise was pure technicolor, bright, magical, full of hope. But you fast forward to 1945, after 2 world wars and the Great Depression, and all that vibrant color has just faded away, replaced by a much starker black and white reality.
And this quote from our source material, it just says it all perfectly. The sheer horror of the Second World War stripped away all the fantasy. There was no more room for illusionist tricks. The raw, unfiltered experience of a global war showed a world that looked nothing like the magical land of Oz.
And so here we are, full circle. The illusionist trick was finally exposed. That consumer-driven, spectacle-filled American dream, born in the White City and perfected in the fantasy of Oz, it was a brilliant invention, but it was also incredibly fragile. It just couldn't hold up against the crushing weight of real history. And that leaves us with one last, lingering question. The factories from back then might be gone, but the machinery of the Dream Factory? It's probably more powerful than ever. It really makes you wonder, what dazzling temporary spectacles are being built for us today? And are you still searching for your own Emerald City?